Good morning. Welcome to All Things Green. My name is Carol and I work with the perennials here at Jung's in Sun Prairie. And today I want to talk to you about how to go about forcing spring bulbs to bloom in the winter. Right now, as you probably know, all the spring bulbs are out and available in the Jung stores. They're in the catalogs and they're online. But you do not have to wait until next spring to enjoy the blooms. Almost any of these bulbs can be forced to bloom this winter indoors. It's a wonderful way to bring a touch of spring into your home. You can make beautiful potted combined arrangements of daffodils, tulips, paper whites, crocus, and hyacinth. And I'd like to talk to you about how you can go about doing this. First, you're going to want to choose bulbs of flowers that you want to include in your arrangements. Choose bulbs that are plump and firm. A lot of times, the bigger the bulb, the bigger flowers you get. So you want to examine the bulbs that you do buy. The next thing you're going to need to do is create a chilled dormancy period. If you select paper whites, they do not need a chilling period or any special care to break their dormancy. They can just be planted right in pots. You want to place your bulbs in paper bags, and you may want to separate each kind of bulb you have so that later on when you go to get them and plant them, you know exactly what bulbs you're planting. So that's a good idea. Get a couple paper bags to separate them. You're going to store them for 10 to 12 weeks in a cool place at about 35 to 45 degrees Fahrenheit. Many people like to use the vegetable bin of their refrigerator or even an unheated garage. But be very mindful. If the temperature drops below 32 degrees, it will stop any kind of root development. And if you are storing it in the refrigerator, keep it away from fruits because fruit will give off ethylene gas, and that can affect the bloom growth and production. So just be mindful of those two things. Now this dormancy period will initiate bulb growth. And when 10 to 12 weeks have passed, you are ready to plant. You want to choose a shallow planter. I'm going to use this particular planter today. By shallow, I mean you don't want it to be a real tall planter. You want it to be shallower. If you are planting short, like dwarf tulips or dwarf daffodils, even crocus, you may want to, choose a planter that's just a little more shallow. And at the Jung stores, we have a lot of the shallow bowls that are actually self-watering, so that too might be something that you want to consider. Okay, so for good drainage, you want to start with a layer of pebbles at the bottom of your bowl, and I have some pebbles in here, and I'm just going to put them in my bowl. That should do it. And then you want to scatter a layer of compost. This is my compost. This is leaf compost. I'm going to scatter that over the top of the pebbles. And then over the compost, you are going to add your potting soil. I'll show you what it looks like so far. You can see some of the pebbles sticking out and the compost on top. Oh, some of my pebbles came out of the bottom. And then go ahead and add your, like I said, your potting soil. Any light potting soil will be perfect for this. And you don't want to fill it all the way up to the top. Give yourself at least an inch, 2 inches from the top of the rim of the pot. There, that should just about do it. Pat it down a little bit. There. And so I'll just tilt it a little bit so you can see how far I am from the top of the pot, top of the pot. Now I will be planting 3 types of bulbs today in my planter. I'm going to be using the large cupped daffodils, the pink impression tulip, and the Euros hyacinth. I think that'll make a nice combination. And I kind of drew out my plan on this piece of paper where the green is daffodils, the red are the tulips, and the blue are the hyacinth. And I'm going to try to follow that pattern. If I start putting these in the bowl and I find I don't quite have enough room, I may not need as many as I thought I might, but that's where I'm going to start. So, then I get my bulbs. These are my daffodils, and I've marked them. These are my tulips, and these are the hyacinth. So I'll start with my daffodils. The bulb looks like this, and you are going to plant the bulb so that 1/2 to 3/4 of the bulb is under the soil, and you want the pointy tops sticking up. You can go ahead and plant your bulbs close together, much closer together than you ever would if you were planting them outside in your garden. They're only going to be there for you know, a short period of time, and I think you'll have a better look if you're planting those bulbs closer together. So I'm going to dig a little hole here and stick it in. And this one is probably sticking out about 3/4 of the way. I'll put another one in. And I should also say that when you do plant your bulbs, space them about no more than what the diameter of the bulb is. So you can see that they can be pretty close together. There, now I'm going to go ahead and plant this up, and I will be back with you in just a few minutes just to show you how it all looks. Okay, so I have finished, and I overplanned. I used, looks like I used 2 less daffodils, and I used 2 less tulips and 1 less hyacinth. So, but I did have my plan in mind, and you know, you may end up over planning too, like sometimes I tend to do. Once your bulbs are all planted, you are going to want to water it. And here's my watering can, and we'll give it some water so it will start to initiate some growth. There, and throughout their growing time, you'll want to be sure that the roots stay nice and moist and that they have plenty of water. Now, the next thing you're going to do is to take your pot and place it in a place where it's between 50 and 60 degrees Fahrenheit, kind of a cooler place. You'll leave it there until you start to see leaves forming. And the reason you're going to give this another little cool down time is that it will form a more compact flower stem. Often when forest bulbs grow, they sometimes get leggy and they can flop over, but this will help keep your stem more compact so that won't happen. Once the leaves will start to appear, you're going to move your pot of bulbs to a warmer location. They're going to prefer bright, indirect light. Now you're going to enjoy the beautiful flowering, and when the flowers start to die back, just cut the blooms off so it'll help preserve the energy of the bulb. And once the blooming has stopped completely, then let the foliage just kind of die back. In the spring, you can go ahead and plant your bulbs outside. I would add bulb tone to the soil where you plant them. That will give the bulbs a little more nutrients and help with their growing. Now, bulbs that have been forced to bloom cannot be forced again. So you're going to want to put these bulbs back into probably the landscape that you have. They use up a lot of energy during the forcing process, so blooms may not be as prolific, at least the first year, as your other blooms. The tulips, it's kind of sad to report, don't always come back well, but the daffodil, the hyacinth, the crocus, the snowdrop, they all will continue to put forth blooms for you. Now, another option to planting chilled bulbs is to force your bulbs in water. And I'm just going to move this now out of the way. And I'm going to bring in what's called forcing vases. They look like this. And so after you chill your, I'm going to get a hyacinth. After you chill your bulbs and they're ready for planting, instead of putting them in the dirt, you can fill this up with water. And then place your bulb on top. You don't want the bulb to be sitting in water constantly. When it starts to root, the roots will go down into the water. And it's kind of fun to have the clear vases because you'll be able to watch the root development and growth. And of course, adding decorative stone just adds, or even marbles, just adds a beautiful look to it. I found this in the store today. This is decorative glass, and I was thinking that this would be so pretty with the blue hyacinth or even the yellows. Actually, with any, it's very beautiful. Okay, you can also, if you want to, plant in a decorative bowl. All you have to do is put a layer of rock, small little pebbles. And we'll use some tulip bulbs here. You will want to plant them about half the way deep. So just set a few in here. And a little more gravel. Because like I said, you want the gravel to come up to about halfway on the bulb. There, that looks about right. Remember, when you're planting, you always want the pointy side of the bulb facing up. And then you'll add water to it. And you don't want to put too much water in. You want it so that I'm going to just peek to see how I've done here. Yep, looks good. You just want it so that the base of the bulb is sitting right over the water. And that's just another way you can plant. Well, whatever way you choose to force your winter bulbs, planting in soil or planting in water, I hope that they bring you much happiness in your winter days. Thank you so much for joining me today.